So I'm going to drain the trans pan now. I'm going to take the dipstick off the pan, which will drain the pan. Then I'm going to take the pan off. And then once the fluid's drained, I'm going to drop the modulator just to keep as much fluid from coming out the backside as possible. I'm going to go ahead and loosen this. And I've got a piece of cardboard wrapped around the top of the header that I can pull down once this starts puking. All right, let that slowly drain. It's not near as the amount of oil coming out that I thought it would.
Looks pretty clean though.
Yep, oil's clean, not burnt.
It's the little things.
Those aren't supposed to be really tight, but they should be snug. And most of those felt like I probably could have gotten them off with my fingertips. I will warn you, pretty much no matter what way you do this, you're gonna take a bath. We'll let this drip dry for a while. Overall, it looks pretty clean.
Yeah, it does. Doesn't look too bad.
Yeah, I don't really see...
Screen looks good.
Yeah, I don't see too bad a clutch material in the bottom. All right, so I am now taking the filter off the transmission. These are 5/16 bolts, and they are all the same length to my knowledge on the C4s. When you're doing this, it's kind of good to have a set of, like a sheet of cardboard, and you stick the bolts in where they came out of. That's the bolt. That's the spring and the plunger.
Did they fall in the pan?
Oh yeah, of course they did. All right, next up is to pull the valve body. Those are 3/8 bolts. And all the 3/8 bolts around the perimeter are what actually hold the valve body on. There are 5/16 bolts that hold the valve body together with a separator plate. Don't need to pull those at this time.
There it goes. More pukey pukey.
And when you pull this down, don't flip it over immediately. This one doesn't, but there are ones that have check valves or check balls. This one, the valves are on top, but just good thing, don't flip this over until you're at your bench or over something. That'll catch anything that falls out. Me.
All right, so since we got, while we're here, and we've got everything torn out of here right now, we've already done the valve body. I wanted to do that separately because it's kind of its own separate little thing. Now we're going to show you some tips and tricks on the C4 transmission and also change out that shift arm. If you have a leaking shift system in here on these cars, if this is leaking around here, which this one is not, but if it were leaking around here, there's a seal you have to replace, and you can't get to it without taking everything loose and basically pulling the transmission apart in order to get to it. Now, we did a video a long time ago on that, back down around 173, 175 on the episode count. So we're up at 614 now. We need to kind of go back in and redress this. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to take loose the kick down arm. That's this one here. It's a 1/2 inch wrench to remove it. That's got to come off anyway in order to change out the actual shift arm. Set the nut aside. Now you can see when I pull that down that this is its own separate piece, and it does have an O-ring in there. So we'll have to kind of work around with that. And then I want to also take loose this nut here. That's a 9/16. I am not going to mark this because I'm putting a different shift on here, arm on here completely. Were I putting this back, I would definitely want to mark position on the arm. And you also want to make sure that the shaft is not spinning if you're doing one of these types. Oh man, see, that thing is just flexed really badly. That arm that you're seeing right here, this arm should not have that kind of angle on it. You can see how hard that popped whenever we pulled it through, and that's one of the reasons why we're having such an issue with it right now. I'm putting pressure on the shaft itself because it's going to keep it in position because it's got flat spots on it for the pickup point right here. Let's see that right there. Everything is pretty much ready to go. You're going to have to take this, is going to have to come out because it's all, and it's all going to have to be done at one time. You have to take this nut loose in order to be able to slip everything out on this side. That is a 7/8. I'm just going to let you know, I've already done this. I've already popped it loose off camera. But one thing I want to go into is when you're in here working, you want to make sure you're very clean because anything that's in here can get into your transmission. So you're going to want to make sure that all this is pretty spotless when you're taking it apart. All right, it may be a little hard to see, but the O-ring that's on here, which is in good shape on this one, is coming off. There's actually an O-ring inside of this manual shift arm that is on this. I guess it's part of the valve body system. When you put the valve body in here, this actuates stuff in the valve body, I'm assuming. I'm not real great on transmissions at this point, but I have done this before. So we got to get that O-ring out of there and set it aside. And we'll need to wash that and clean it up, make sure everything's copacetic on it. And then I'm going to take the nut, pull the nut off of its mount. Get that undone. A lot longer than you would think. Okay, and then that is going to come out this way. Here comes the ATF that Cam loves so much. And then that comes off of there. All right, so now these two have to come off. I'm trying to get this so you guys can see what I'm doing here. They will angle down and out. And then that one rotates that way to come out. I'll set those aside with the shift arm. And then there's a seal that you can't see probably right here on the side of the transmission. And that seal on this one is actually in pretty good shape. But in a case of while we're here, we're going to change it out for a new seal. All right, so what I'm going to use is basically this is a cotter pen tool, but it'll work pretty well for pulling that seal out. My biggest problem is I can't really see what I'm doing too much in here. But it's just that easy to get out. Now I'm going to go in with a paper towel and try to clean that facing off just a hair so that when I put the new one in, I'm not dealing with a problem there. And I will also take the new one and do a little bit of ATF on it just to make sure it's ready to go. This is a coffee filter ode to Cam Chambers. And the coffee filter is just basically so that we can get a nice, it'll go in a little easier with the ATF on it. Okay, seal is back in. Now, all of this stuff goes back up in here. All right, I'm going to put all this back together now, at least in theory. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna have to be back that way. I want to get that nut tightened up with my 7/8 wrench. No torque specs on that for you, sorry. Nut on stud. Everything goes back together. I'm not going to completely assemble this. I'm going to tighten everything up that I've got going on so far. Now, I'm going to have to probably do an adjustment here, but this will show you that that is now in a much more copacetic spot. That on there. I don't know that this is the right spot for it. It may have to go forward or backward a little bit to actually mate up. I'm going to put it on here, and then when we get going, we'll probably have to do our adjustments.
So we are going to do a band adjustment on this transmission now. We are going to adjust the intermediary band and the reverse band. So the way you do it is you loosen the lock nut, turn this in, snug it, and follow your instructions because your models change the adjustments. This one's going to be a 1 1/4 out. I believe this one is a 1 1/2 out. I'm going to go ahead and loosen the lock nut. I want to back this lock nut all the way off. All right, that should be enough. So you're going to tighten this until it is snug on the band. And you'll see this band will tighten down onto the drum. All right, you can see fluid's getting squeezed out. That means it's engaged. All right there is snug. So now the real fun thing is with the kickdown linkage and everything on, going to be accurately turning it out. 1/4 turn, 1/2 turn, 3/4, full, 1 1/4. Right, so I'm going to take RTV and put a little dab. Oh, that's a big dab. Gonna push it behind that lock nut. And this is not very pretty, but you're not going to get this very pretty. This is to stop the oil wicking through the threads and coming out from behind the lock nut. Snug the lock nut down. All right, so I've got the valve body under here now. We are good to set everything back in. Our kickdown is forward as it goes. It's in its natural resting spot. We are in park. So I'm going to take this manual valve here, push it pretty much all the way forward. We are going to be putting this part of the poppet right in front of this C-clip. It's going to interface right here. All right, so I also took the detent spring off the side just to ease installation. You don't have to take that off, but it just makes it a whole lot easier to see and not have to fight against that spring. So the easiest way is to look on the driver's side of it. You're going to put your valve body up. And that poppet, or that manual valve is not far enough forward. Push it through a little bit. All right, that's on. And this pretty much just sits up here. All right, so I'm snugging these up with a nut driver, and not on this kit, but on the C6 kit that I have at the house. In the description is a picture of a nut driver. It says this is the preferred tool unless you are a gorilla, and then to use an inch-pound torque wrench. So I'm going to snug these up, and I like using a torque wrench on transmission stuff anyway, so.
Does that mean you're a gorilla?
Yes. Head cannon. All right, so we have the transmission pan here. We just glued the gasket down with some weather strip adhesive and cleaned it out with some brake clean and flattened out all the bolt hole spots.
Ish.
Yeah. If you over torque these, it pulls the metal up, which causes leak points. So always flatten those out with a body hammer when you can.
Don't know that that's going to make any difference on this, and they were pretty bad. So we'll just run it like we are, and if we need to, we'll get another pan for it.
All right. Coil's hot. Go for it. Right, needs about a quart or two more oil.
All right, so we had a malfunction that we didn't show you guys. We had a problem with the DuraSpark. Really wasn't a problem with the DuraSpark. It was actually a problem with the way it was wired. They had one 12-volt wire coming in from the coil, I guess, that was running the gauges. So none of my gauges are now working. They were working before. So now we're gonna have to try to get that wire back in play, but we're not gonna do that right now. Mostly I wanna see if we can get this thing to run correctly. Well, the transmission. I'm not worried about the engine. Obviously it's running. Maybe not well, but you know, it's running. And what Cam's doing right now is he's just checking fill, putting fluid in it as it needs it, because the pump is gonna be pulling ATF into the system.
Go ahead and drop it through the gears. And down.
Oh, the tack isn't working either. So that tells me that literally everything on the gauge panel is running off of that one red wire. We're gonna need to reestablish that wire into the system, but I may do a bit of rerouting so that neatens it up just a little bit.
I'm gonna call that good.
Does that mean we need to go for a drive now?
Attempt one.
I think it's as big as a house. All right, here we go. We're gonna take it out for a drive. Theoretically. I hope that little wire we made doesn't just suddenly become a thing that lets the smoke out.
It's got enough to wire it straight. Oh, still an automatic.
Still an automatic, not a manual.
Done at least one thing successfully.
Yes, we've made an automatic.
We at least have a power glide.
That was 1 to 2, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Come on, baby, shift. I don't have to have the tack to read off if it's still doing it.
It's shifting.
Yeah, but it didn't shift where it's supposed to.
That modulator adjustment.
Think so?
Yeah.
All right. Motivates pretty well, though.
Yeah.
These cars were horrible. There is absolutely no wind coming into the front part of the cab on it.
Once they went away from vent windows, like airflow into the cab was second thought on everything.
suggest we go back and adjust the modulator after it cools off, because I don't want to adjust the modulator while it's hot. Now we assume that the one that Bill brought us is actually a green stripe. It may not be. It may be a different one. We don't know. One to two.
2 and 2.
Should shift right there. I was hoping I could force it into shifting. I'm gonna go down past and come back. I want to see something. He says it's got a 350 gear in it, so I'm kind of wondering about that.
It feels good though.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's in drive right now.
It has to be, because it hit third.
When did it hit third though?
It hit third when you let out of it the second time.
Think so?
Yeah.
Do you think that's a modulator issue?
Just an adjustment, or or the direct clutches are leaking.
All right, so I am all the way down in first on the transmission. I'm gonna go out across here and manually shift it through. Slip going in.
Flare shift, yeah.
So what does that mean? Okay.
Clutch problem.
So are we screwed on this transmission? Are we gonna have to pull it out and put the other one on?
More than likely, yeah.
He's got some power.
Yeah. That's a good one. Modulator will make it shift into third when we want it. It's still a little bit, like for performance, honestly, I kind of like the way it is.
Yeah.
Just soft shoeing it like that, it's not going to shift into third on time, I don't think.
Well, you got to drive it like you hate it.
Yeah. But I mean, that rolled out.
That goes.
And that shift was,
It'll go.
it was there.
What if it'll do a burnout?
I'm sure it will.
Sure.
Yeah.
Didn't he say it was a traction lock?
I don't know.
I think he did. Well, there's a burnout spots up here somewhere.
The sheet said for burnouts, break it loose in first or second and then shift to third.
I'm just gonna see if it'll do it. Nope. It's either the brakes or the brakes must be too good.
Or it's just too heavy.
Most likely it's just too heavy. We'd have to do a little bit of juicy juice
Yeah,
under the
yeah.
tires to make it do a burnout. Well, we want to put it in the garage or put it on the side for now.
That's up to you. If you want to go do the adjustment real quick, it shouldn't take too long.
Yeah, we need to let it cool off before we're going to do that, though. That's going to be hot right where you would be working.
Yeah, but not done worse.
Let's just wait on it. Put the fan on there. And
Well, I think that was success.
disappointing, but not unexpected.
Yes, yes.
It was a gamble.
More problems found.
It was a gamble. God, yeah. So we found a wiring issue. We found
found multiple wiring issues.
multiple wiring issues.
All ganged together.
What a little grief. electrical tape pile. So we found that. Then we got the.
Speaking of, coil's still hot.
Coil's still on.
Yeah.
He's going to go turn the coil off while I talk to you and keep you busy while he's doing this.
It's not melt.
We have a wire that we're supposed to be running. I'm going to open the hood here. I'm going to just leave the hood open, folks. There we go. Now we're all comfortable again. Here, you can have your papers back.
Thank you. Oh, sure. Yeah.
So we had a wire that was running from inside the cab. That was an aftermarket wire that we didn't know what it was for.
This wire.
That wire right there. And it's obviously running everything because most of our gauges, including the tack, quit working when we unhooked that wire.
When it unhooked itself.
It unhooked itself because it was wrapped around the accelerator pedal. I couldn't see it like that underneath there, so it popped it off there, and it was why the car wouldn't start, which was what happened that you didn't see a lot of because it took a while for us to figure that out. In any case, we're happy and yet unhappy.
Yeah. So still have the 2 to 3 it flared once. So more than likely there is a leakage in the direct clutch pack. Drive it aggressively. Make it shift fast.
It's so true.
Oh yeah, I just wiped my face. I just didn't even think about that.
All right, folks, that's all our show for this week. Be sure to be kind to each other.
Don't be kind to the car.
Love on each other. Treat each other nice, and then treat your car like a piece of crap, and it should shift fine and run okay. You guys have a great week. We'll see you next time on Autorestomod. Why is it always like this? It's always one thing tumbles over to something else.
It's the car industry.
I quit. Not the car, just for the day.